Hello, 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 and welcome to another high altitude investing live stream. Today is the 10th of October, and yeah, it's another beautiful day to be alive, to be a crypto investor. Gonna share the link here on Discord and on X, and we'll get started for today's live stream. Super excited. You guys, crypto is looking good. Bitcoin pulled back a little bit, but Bitcoin dominance is breaking bearish out of a rising wedge, which we'll talk about in just a second. And crypto's looking good. Even Bitcoin looks good. It just pulled back a little bit on the short term. So let's go ahead and get the link shared here, and we'll get started in today's live stream. So first thing I want to talk about is Bitcoin dominance. So let's pull up old Bitcoin dominance here. We'll remove all the drawing tools. So, as you guys know, Bitcoin dominance broke bearish out of a rising wedge that we had been forming back here. We have a rising wedge here on Bitcoin dominance. We broke bearish out of that rising wedge. And that started the beginning of altcoin season. We've seen Zcash go up significantly. We've seen a lot of coins do really well. And that's really because of the fact that Bitcoin dominance is starting to fall off a cliff. And when Bitcoin dominance starts to go down, that's really the green light go for the rest of the crypto markets, as you guys know. Bitcoin dominance always goes down during major bull markets. So we'll pull that chart up in just a second. What's up, Tiger King? King J, thank you for tuning in. MS, what is up? Thank you for tuning in. Looks like we entered a bear market. Well, I'd have to disagree with you, MS. I don't believe that this is a bear market at all. A lot of people are saying stuff like that, but a lot of people have no idea what they're doing. If they had a correct understanding of technical analysis and they knew the way that markets worked with uptrends and downtrends and all of that, I'd have to say the people that are calling for a bear market right now don't know what they're talking about. And I know you just said that you were joking, but still, people that are calling for that, because I do see people calling for that, are completely unaware of what's about to happen. They have no idea. So let's talk about Bitcoin dominance. So Bitcoin dominance always goes down when the bull market is in full force. So we have a big crash right here on Bitcoin dominance here. As you can see, during 2017, when the crypto markets were in full force bull market, Bitcoin dominance was falling off a cliff, right? Bitcoin dominance was just falling off a cliff all through 2017. But that's also when the crypto markets were in the biggest bull market it has ever seen, really. 2021 was similar, but it wasn't nearly as big of a bull market in terms of alt season, in terms of profitability, in terms of, it just wasn't as big. Even though the crypto markets went up in 2021 right here when Bitcoin dominance was falling off a cliff, the thing is that there was so much inflation during that period of time that people just didn't make as much money. Like the actual purchasing power, they might have made, more dollar amount, but the actual purchasing power, 2017 was way bigger of a bull market than 2021. Even if you only made like $1 million in 2017, you made more money than people that made $2 million in 2021. And that's just the truth, right? So 2017 was one of the biggest crypto bull markets in history. It was super big, super bullish, super profitable, super fun. And you can see how hard Bitcoin dominance fell. Even harder than 2021, right? Way harder. So what you want to do here is pay attention to Bitcoin dominance. Because as Bitcoin dominance falls, and especially the harder it falls, that's a clear indicator that the crypto bull market is in full force. One of the reasons that you can know that the crypto bull market is just getting started here is the fact that Bitcoin dominance just started falling. Bitcoin always leads the beginning of the bull market. It always leads. You can see here in 2020 and 2019, Bitcoin dominance was going up, right? That's because Bitcoin leads the start of the bull market. Bitcoin bottomed in 2018, right here. And it started going up, and it was leading. It was growing faster than the altcoins were. And that led to a big bull market. You can see Bitcoin dominance then started to fall, and that led to a huge bull market. The bull market went full force in 2021. Bitcoin kept going up in value. It didn't stop climbing in 2021, but Bitcoin dominance fell off a cliff. And the same thing is happening right now. We have Bitcoin dominance leading the bull market here. That's why Bitcoin has done so well at the start of this bull market, because that's what it did last time. That's historically what Bitcoin has done. Bitcoin has done really well at the beginning of all bull markets. And then what happens is it starts to fall off a cliff, starts to go down. Once it starts to go down, the altcoins go crazy, and Bitcoin continues to increase in value, but Bitcoin dominance falls off a cliff, and that's the signal for the full force bull market, for the craziest pump ever. And we haven't had that yet. If you guys think that crypto has started to pump, you're wrong. It's that simple. You're wrong. Bitcoin started to pump. Ethereum started a little bit, right? If we look at the graph here on Ethereum, it started to pump a little bit. You know, it's near its old all-time high, but it's not even breaking out like crazy to a new all-time high yet. Bitcoin has started to break out to a new all-time high, right? It started to break above its old all-time high. It's up at 117,000 right now. It hit 125 at its recent peak. So it's starting to go for a new all-time high. XRP is barely above its old all-time high. In fact, right now it's not, but when it hit $3.60, it was slightly above its old all-time high, right? On some exchanges, it looks like, not here on coinmarketcap.com, it wasn't quite. Its old all-time high looks like $3.80, but most exchanges it stopped at like $3.30, and so it went to a new all-time high on some exchanges at least. So crypto really hasn't started to break out to a new all-time high. People have no idea what's coming. Most people are so ignorant to the truth that they're going to do some really stupid things. They're going to make some really bad choices. And I wish it wasn't that way, but it 100% is. People make stupid choices. And the reason people make stupid choices is because they think they're smarter than they are. If they would humble themselves and realize how dumb they are when it comes to trading and investing, because unless you've been doing this for a long time, or unless you have a really good teacher, you're probably really bad at this. Like, you're probably really bad. So a lot of people make a lot of really dumb choices because they think they're smarter than they are. And I'm here to tell you that even people that are bearish right now think that they're smarter than they are. People that are calling for a bear market right now, you guys think you're smarter than you are. So if you want to make money in this market, you have to understand the context of what's going on in the bigger picture, and you have to start humbling yourself, and you have to be aware of what's coming. David, of course, the opposite can be said, but does that mean that it's true? There is such a thing as truth. It's not like everything is relative. The earth is round. It's a globe. It's not flat. Somebody could say, oh, the earth is flat, but are they right? No, they're wrong. So there is such a thing as truth. A horse has 4 legs. So you can't argue that a horse has 6 legs and be right. It has 4 legs. There's such a thing as truth. So yeah, anybody can argue an opposite point, but if they're not right about it, they're just speaking into the air. So you have to be able to determine what truth is. And when it comes to trading, when it comes to investing, that means you have to have an actual knowledge of the way these markets work. You can't just shoot in the dark. You can't be an idiot and walk away with profit. But most people are idiots. Why do you think 90% of people walk away from this market and they lose money? 90% of people lose money in crypto because they're idiots. That's why. They think that they're smarter than they are. It happens every time. If you guys want to know the truth about Bitcoin, look at Apple. All right? Because you're going to have a whole bunch of opinions. You're going to have people that think that the market's bearish. You're going to have people that think that the market might go a little higher than it's going to go into a bear market. You're going to have people that have all kinds of different opinions. But who cares about people's opinions? See if you can find the truth of what's happening. Because the truth will cut through every opinion that everybody has, and it will show you what's actually happening. The truth cuts through it all. The truth doesn't care about opinions. It cares about what actually is. Right? In fact, the best definition of truth that I've ever heard is things as they are, things as they were, and as they will be. So the truth is a knowledge of things as they actually are. Not people's opinion, not what's popular, not what is commonly taught in schools, not what is cool to believe, but what actually is true. That's the best definition of truth I've ever heard. And to be honest with you guys, if you look at the market, people can have their opinion. They can believe their bear market is starting, but that's their opinion. If you want to know what's actually true, look at Apple. All right? Study old technologies. And I know it's crazy to say that computers are an old technology because they're really not that old. But older technologies than crypto or AI or all the new exciting stuff that's coming out, something that's older than those. Look at what happened to older technologies as they were adopted by the public. Look at what happened to a new emerging technology. Study that. Because that's what crypto is. Crypto is a new emerging technology. Just like the internet, just like computing, it's a new emerging technology. So if you want to get a grip on what's going to happen for crypto, you better have a pretty good idea of what new technologies do. And one of the best examples of this is Apple computers. Why do you think Steve Wozniak bought Bitcoin? Co-founder of Apple Computers. It's almost like he knows something. Really good guy, by the way. I love Steve Wozniak. He's a really cool guy. If you go watch interviews and stuff, he's a super cool guy. Why do you think he bought Bitcoin? Not because he's trying to play a pump and dump, but because he understands Bitcoin is a new emerging technology and he wants to be part of the adoption. That's why. And look at Apple right here, okay? Apple is increasing in volume and price. Bitcoin increasing in volume and price. Then look what happened to Apple is as this stock, this company, the technology of computers was mass adopted by the public. It didn't just pump a little bit. It didn't just break above its old all-time high and then go into a bear market. It didn't do this. Whoop! And then start this massive bear market. No. You know what happened? The demand drove the price of this stock completely to the moon. And guess what? Demand drives price. If you guys want to understand economics, you have to understand that demand drives price. This is why it's so useful to invest in new emerging technologies. Why do you think people got so rich investing in new emerging technologies? Because they know if there's an actual demand for something and that demand is only going to grow, then the price is only going to grow over time until the demand stops growing. It's simple economics. But there's people out there that think that they're so smart that they're going to call the top of a revolution. That they're going to be the guy that knows exactly what price Bitcoin is going to stop at. That the demand is just going to stop and it's just going to start a bear market. There's people that think that. And they're idiots. That's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, right? If you want to try to call the top on a new technology that's emerging, that the demand is only growing because there's countries all over the world right now that need crypto. Think of okay, in America, we're blessed, all right? We have somewhat of a stable currency. Hyperinflation is insane. It's really bad. Way worse than it should be. But it's not like Venezuela. In America, we are blessed, all right? We have somewhat of a stable currency. You know what? Other countries around the world, crypto is their salvation from corrupt, controlled, centralized currencies, even with its volatility. Why? Because over time it generally grows. Its volatility is less than their currency that over time drops 100 times faster than the dollar drops. So just even in third world developing countries, the demand for crypto, for blockchain, for the technology of Bitcoin is only going to grow from here. It's only going to increase and grow. Now, in America, we have the same problem. Not to the same extent, but we have the same problem with hyperinflation, with centralized authority controlling currencies. And it's bad enough that there's a demand for crypto in the United States. And here's the truth. Some people tell me, they say, hey, Dallin, well, what about regulation? What about, crypto being controlled or shut down or regulated? Here's the honest truth. You forget about competition. Why do you think that America has been leading the innovation of advanced technologies for the past 100 years? Why? It's because they're not willing to over-regulate. They do have a bit of a problem with regulation here in America. We do. But overall, we let new technologies happen. Why? Because if we don't, Russia or China or somewhere else is going to let it happen. And they're going to gain the economic edge over us. And so people are aware, really smart people, even in the highest levels of government, people that you would probably, sometimes even people that you would say, oh, they hold a high position in government, they must be evil. That's a total fallacy. A position doesn't make somebody evil. How they conduct themselves makes somebody good or evil. And there's good people even at the highest levels of government, even in today's world. People that understand that, hey, we need to let technology do its thing. We need to let this new emerging technology happen. Because if we don't, China will have the edge, Russia will have the edge, somebody else will have the edge. So you have to think with your mind and see things as they actually are. If you want to cut through all the BS out there that's going to distract you and make you make terrible decisions in this market, you have to cut through the noise and see things as they actually are and think with your mind and not be a blind person being swayed by everybody else's opinion. Anyways, Bitcoin is bullish, you guys. I don't care if it's down a little bit in the short term. Buy the dip. If it drops to 100K, double down, right? Don't try to be smarter than the uptrend, than the demand for this technology, because the demand is not going anywhere. AC, what is up, Adrian? It's good to see you tuning in, my friend. Filecoin. Yeah, I'm actually glad you brought Filecoin up because I was going to do analysis on it last time, but I didn't have time. So Filecoin, let's pull up the divergence here. We'll go to the daily. Filecoin has bullish divergence. So if you look on the daily candlesticks here, we have a big lower low in price right here, right? Huge lower low. We have this low right here. Then we have another lower low right here, right? If you look at the MACD, we have a higher low. So that's bullish divergence on the MACD, on the daily. And what you want to be aware of here with Filecoin, you have to be aware of the fact that Filecoin is in the depression phase of its cycle. So let's pull up the market cycle chart here. And the depression phase of the market cycle is that point of maximum financial opportunity. That's where the price goes for one more low. All right. So if we look at the market cycle here on Filecoin and we pull up the chart here, and even we could probably go to the log chart to show this. So if we're looking at the logarithmic chart for Filecoin, and let's just copy the market cycle and we'll paste it onto the chart here. If it will let me do that. Hold on just a second. Huh. Maybe. Interesting. Let's steal a different one. Market cycle, Wall Street, cheat sheet. Let's take this one and see if it'll let me copy it. There we go. Cool. All right, so here's the Wall Street cheat sheet. And if you look at the market cycle here, this is why I'm telling people, like, selling your crypto, especially altcoins right now, but Bitcoin still has a lot more left, because it's going to fuel the whole bull market. But selling altcoins right now, a lot of them are in the depression phase of their cycle. It would be like selling at the point of maximum financial opportunity. Okay. So if you look at Filecoin right here, and you look at the market cycle chart, the point of maximum financial opportunity is right here. That's the depression phase of the cycle. That's the point of maximum financial opportunity. All right. Now let's do a quick analysis of Filecoin and where it's at in its cycle. Okay. If we look at Filecoin on the logarithmic chart where you can see the whole cycle clearly, easily, here's the disbelief phase right here that coincides with this right here. I mean, you can just see it. You don't have to be, you just have to have a pair of working eyes, all right? And you can see this. Here's the euphoria phase of the cycle. That coincides with right here, the peak in 2021. Here's the complacency of the cycle. That coincides with right here. Anxiety, denial, panic, anger. That coincides with right here. And then depression. We're in the depression phase of the cycle on Filecoin. And if you don't know, the point of maximum financial opportunity is the point of maximum contraction on this simplified market cycle up here in the top right of the Wall Street cheat sheet. That point of maximum financial opportunity is the depression phase of the cycle. That's where the lowest risk presents itself with the highest opportunity. That's where Filecoin is at. A lot of altcoins are either in the depression phase of their cycle or the disbelief phase. Some of them have moved a little bit closer to like hope or optimism. Like Ethereum started breaking out, XRP started breaking out. So they're a little bit more into hope and optimism. Like there's hope that it might go up. But most people are still skeptical because most people wait to buy until right here. And that's why 90% of people lose money. Because they're not willing to buy down here when something isn't attractive, when it isn't cool, when nobody's talking about it. Nobody is talking about Filecoin. Or very few people comparatively to 2021 up here when everybody was excited and talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. But it's a point of maximum financial opportunity. Why do you think the big whales started putting more money in? You can see it in the volume. Why did they start to put more money into the market down here when it's undervalued? Because the market makers know exactly what I'm talking about right now. That it was in the anger and the depression phase, and it was undervalued, and it was time to start picking up Filecoin. That they know exactly what I'm talking about. Why do you think they call it the Wall Street cheat sheet? Because the smartest people on Wall Street understand the human emotion of the cycle, and they utilize it and they capitalize on it. That's why. So Filecoin looks good down there. There's bullish divergence. We're in the depression phase of the cycle. You have every reason to be bullish. The alt bleed is always so painful. Yeah, it's painful and long, and that's why everybody, and then Bitcoin always starts to take off at the start. So everybody, yeah, David, it has been bleeding for the past 5 years. Altcoins have. Because here's the thing, or at least some of them had a bull market in 2021, right? A little bit of one in 2021. Some of them have been basically going down for 8 years, like 8 years, right? Um, but yeah, the thing is, yeah, a lot of coins had a bear market. They've been bleeding for 5 years. A lot of altcoins have been bleeding and accumulating for 8 years, even some of the bigger ones like Litecoin. Why? Why does that happen? The, the, the same thing that happened in 2017. Before 2017 happened, altcoins had a brutal, brutal bear market starting in 2014. And it lasted all through 2015, 2016, a brutal bear market. It happens because people are not patient. So they sell. These long bear markets happen and they give up on alt season. They give up on a big bull market happening. And they think that there's no way that a big bull market's going to happen for the altcoins. And that's exactly when it happens. But if you're an altcoin person and you're wondering about your altcoins, whether they're going to have a bull market or whether this was just a Bitcoin bull market, go look at Bitcoin dominance. Stop worrying about what's going to happen and start looking at the charts because they're going to tell you what's going to happen. And Bitcoin dominance is very clearly starting to do exactly what it did in 2017 and in 2021. This is like the most obvious indicator that the crypto bull market just barely got started that there possibly could be. If you're looking for a clear indicator that the Bitcoin and the crypto bull market still has more upside, go look at Bitcoin dominance. Because, by the way, Bitcoin itself, even though Bitcoin dominance goes down when the bull market is in full force, Bitcoin itself moons, even though the dominance goes down. This is the most obvious indicator that the alt season still hasn't happened, that Bitcoin dominance and Bitcoin is still going to, or that Bitcoin's still going to go higher. It's Bitcoin dominance. That's the most obvious indicator. The fact that Bitcoin dominance is going to go lower here and it's rejecting and it's set up to do exactly what it did in 2017 and in 2021 is the most obvious indicator that the crypto markets still have more upside. But you can't use one thing. You have to put multiple things together. Why do you think I've been comparing Bitcoin to Apple computers? And some people say, oh, well, you can't compare one technology to another. Well, watch me, all right? Watch me do it and watch me be right. I compared Bitcoin to gold last year in the cup and handle, and it broke out to a new all-time high exactly as I planned. It doesn't matter what market you're looking at. It's not comparing apples to apples or apples to oranges. If you're comparing two markets together, you're comparing human emotion. So you're comparing apples to apples no matter what technology or commodity or asset class you're looking at. Because the human emotion is what you're comparing. The psychology, that's why they call it the psychology of a market cycle on the Wall Street cheat sheet. You're comparing the psychology. No, it's not comparing apples to oranges, even if they're two completely different asset classes. It's comparing human emotion to human emotion and studying the cycles. Why do you think that I look at both Bitcoin dominance and the fractal of early day Apple computers and Bitcoin currently. I look at these two fractals together because I'm looking at multiple things and I'm studying these cycles to get a better idea of what's happening in the market. I'm getting as much data as possible to have a clear understanding of what's going on in the market. Bitcoin is bullish. I don't care what you say, who you are. This thing is going to take off. It's going to go a lot higher. And alt season still hasn't happened. And it's going to. And whether you like it or not, that's the truth. And you can argue me all day. You can say whatever you want to say. But that's the honest truth, is that the crypto markets are going to go higher. And you can take advantage of it. You can profit on it. Or you can walk away from this market, say that a bear market's going to happen, and go completely opposite of the direction of the intelligent investors. That's totally your choice. And I actually want you to choose what you want to do. I'm not trying to take your free will away. You have complete total choice to do whatever you want to do. But I will tell you what I see. We're on the cusp of something big for crypto. Dallin, you say moon is coming, but it will go nuts. It will blow you away, but every time the market goes down. Being said today, again, I have invested more in this crash. Well, AJ, there's something to be said for timing, right? I talk about the big picture on this channel. Sometimes I zoom in and look at the 45-minute. Sometimes I'll cover smaller time frames. And by the way, you're actually wrong. Because I've been saying that crypto is going to moon. I've been making videos about crypto. I made a video about Bitcoin when it was worth $15,000 saying it was going to moon. Yeah, some of the altcoins have taken longer. Ethereum, I said, was going to go up, and Ethereum went up. So I'm talking about a way bigger picture than most people are talking about, and crypto overall has continually gone to the moon the entire time that I've been saying it. I've been telling people crypto is going to go up since 2016. You think I'm going to just start preaching a different message when the biggest bull market and uptrend in the history of humanity started? No. I'm not going to. I'm going to be smart about this and ride the trend because that's what's going to make me and my followers the most money, even if they have to be patient about some of the altcoins, which, by the way, are getting ready to take off and go crazy. But Ethereum, even Ethereum, I was telling people Ethereum was bullish when it hit the bottom of the V-bottom recovery right here. When Ethereum came down right here and hit 1,400. So as people that are investing in this market, you have to stop looking at the smaller time frames. There's a reason I'm always zoomed out on the 15-day, on the 7-day, on the 5-day. There's a reason I'm looking at those bigger time frames. And yeah, overall, crypto has done exactly what I said it was going to do. I told people Bitcoin was going to go up. I made a video about Bitcoin, calling the bottom on Bitcoin in 2022. I made a video about Ethereum right here, calling the bottom on Ethereum in 2025. I made a bunch of videos about XRP, calling the bottom on XRP. Everybody thought I was crazy. They told me the XRP was a total crap coin. They're like, Dallin, why would you ever buy XRP? It's so dumb. I was making tons of videos about XRP all through this area right here, and it went to the moon. And we're only just getting started. Yeah, the short term's a little bit volatile sometimes. Maybe it looks like it's going to break out and takes a little longer than planned. But why do you think that I talk about the big picture so much? It's because you can trust that. You can trust the bigger picture. You can make money on the bigger picture, and it's not that hard to do. And you could be wrong 100 times in the short term, and as long as you don't sell and you let the big picture trend to do its thing, you're going to walk away from this market profitable with profit in your portfolio. Let's see here. What have other people been saying here? GTA 6 is coming soon. They will want retail to be FOMOing in on crypto during the release of GTA 6. Tons of rumors about blockchain crypto wallets inside of GTA 6 online. See, that's a sign of adoption, Mike. The fact that people are starting to adopt crypto, right? People are starting to talk about crypto being in video games, like major video games. There's talk about complete integration with crypto in Apple Pay, right? There's a lot of talk about crypto going up. A lot of talk about crypto being adopted. And the thing is people it's all set up in such a way that so many people got screwed at the top in 2018 when crypto topped out, and so many people got screwed at the top in 2021 and 2022 when crypto topped out. So a lot of people see all this exciting stuff and they think, oh, the top must be in. You guys, crypto is set up for mass adoption. The big institutions have been accumulating. They've been accumulating since the bottom of 2018. And you can see it in the volume. You don't have to take my word for it, all right? You don't have to trust me. I don't even care if you trust me or not. Just go look at the data. Don't even listen to me if you don't want to. In fact, I encourage all of you to learn technical analysis yourselves so you don't have to lean on anybody else, right? You don't even have to worry about trusting somebody else's opinion. You can just look at the data. And let's pull up the total crypto market cap here, okay? And no redneck, high-tech redneck, we are not starting a bear market, all right? This is a perfectly good opportunity to buy the dip. Even if crypto was to pull back to support one more time, like even if we did this in the total crypto market cap, it would be very short-lived. The people that are going to lose are the people that are going to sell their crypto here. Plain and simple. We're not starting a bear market. I don't care what anybody says. Now, if you look at the data here on the total crypto market cap, look how much volume started coming into the markets in 2018. If you look historically, previous to that, we had, here is 220 million in trading volume on this volume spike, right? But if you look at the data over here, look in 2018, 33 billion, and then look at the bottom here in 2018 and 2019, 114 billion, 145 billion, 579 billion, right? And then look over here, 498 billion, 538 billion, right? That's institutional volume. The big institutions are here. The charts show it. The data is here. You can have all the opinions that you want, but opinions don't care. The market doesn't care about your opinions, I mean. You can have whatever opinion you want. The market doesn't care. The market cares about data. The market cares about what's actually happening. And a lot of people have this view right now that, crypto's just going to start a bear market, or it's going to go up a little bit more and then start a bear market, or the end is near. Oh, we have maybe a month or two left. You really think the market cares about your opinion? The market doesn't give two squats about your opinion. The market cares about what's actually true. How do you come to an understanding of what's actually true? You look at the data. It's just like science, right? How do you come to an understanding of the universe? You observe it. You do tests. You see what happens if you throw a rock in the water and there's a ripple. And then you get understanding and you awareness and data on the universe through observation of the data. And the same is true for the markets. It's literally the same thing. And if you look at the total crypto market cap here, the total crypto market cap is looking exactly like Apple computers after it broke out in 2008 right here. And the volume, by the way, look how much volume was here on Apple. Okay. 26 billion. 26 billion again. 23 billion. 21 billion. 14 billion, right? And so the data is here. The volume is here. We have big institutions in crypto. It looks exactly like Apple, as Apple started a new market cycle here, or started a big market cycle here, and was adopted by the public. And crypto is starting that cycle as we speak. Big institutions are here. So, Mike, I agree with you. GTA 6 and crypto being adopted by the rumor of crypto being put in GTA 6, that's signs of adoption. That's signs of crypto not being a fad, a passing fad, but crypto being something that's here to stay. So the markets are set up for some insane gains. This is what I want you guys to look at. Don't go look at all the people on YouTube telling you that crypto is going to start a bear market. Don't listen to those idiots. Okay? Don't go listen to all the news articles about crypto being bearish. Don't go look on X.com and see all the bearish charts about bear markets starting. There's a reason why Warren Buffett says, I will tell you how to get rich. Okay, this man knows what he's talking about. He might be a little bit old school and doesn't really have a super positive opinion about crypto. Kind of like Dave Ramsey. I love Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is a really cool guy. Super smart. Helps a lot of people. Really rich. But he's kind of old school. And he doesn't understand crypto. Same with Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett, super smart. He knows what he's talking about, but he doesn't understand crypto. All right. It took him forever to invest in Apple stock, and finally he did. Finally he bought Apple stock because he's just kind of old school. Warren Buffett is, right? But Apple stock became the biggest company in the entire world, right? But he said, there's a reason Warren Buffett said, I will tell you how to become rich. Close the doors, be fearful when others are greedy, that's not the full quote. Oh, no, yeah, that is the full quote. Yeah, close the doors. Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. What is he telling you to do? What does that sound like? Tune out from the noise. Close the doors. Don't go listen to other people's opinions. Don't be swayed by the crowd. Don't be swayed by the opinions of men. Screw their opinion. Find the truth. Be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. That's the truth. That's what you need to do to make money in these markets. So yeah, there's a lot of people right now that are fearful, a lot of people that have no idea what they're talking about, a lot of people that are swayed by the opinions of men, a lot of people that are bearish when they should be bullish. But the fact of the matter is, you should be greedy. You should be greedy. That's what you should be doing right now. Even, let's say you put as much as you possibly can into crypto. Well, don't be an idiot and sell now. You're really going to sell after all of this patience, all of this persistence, all of this holding true to your original vision of what's going to happen? Do you think faith is faith if it isn't tested? Do you think faith is a perfect knowledge? Faith is not a perfect knowledge. Otherwise, it would not be faith. You have to exercise faith in these markets. Let's talk about theta, high-tech redneck. Do you think that people right now, do you think that people are fearful of theta, or are they greedy? Do you think people are being fearful or greedy? Whatever the answer to that question is, you should do the opposite. Look at this thing. It's down 97% from its peak. Of course people think it's going to go lower. Of course people are bearish. Of course people are skeptical of a bull market. Of course. It's down 96% from its peak. This thing is undervalued. This thing is in that state of the cycle where the maximum point of financial opportunity is here and the minimum financial risk. That's exactly where it's at on the market cycle right here. The point of maximum financial opportunity. That's where we're at on theta. And this is a perfect example of be greedy when other people are fearful, and fearful when other people are greedy. Theta's perfect example of that. So no, I don't think a short-term bear market is coming. We'll never have a bear market with that attitude. Well, good. It could be a long time before we have a bear market. Before we have a big 90% correction on crypto, it could be longer than it's ever taken. If altcoins have the capacity, like XRP, let's pull up XRP on Bitstamp, if it has the capacity to have a longer bear market than it ever had, right? This bear market on XRP starting in 2018 lasted longer than any other bear market ever had. Or if Bitcoin Cash has the capacity to have a longer bear market than most altcoins had ever had historically up to that point, if it has that capacity to do that, look at this bear market here on Bitcoin Cash. Look how long this lasted. Then the bull market has the capacity to be bigger and longer than any other bull market we've ever had. And test people's patience more before it happens too. Because that's what's happening. People's patience is being tested. And the market is going to go crazy. It's going to go nuts. It's going to go vertical. But people's patience, their faith has to be tested, and that's what's been happening. Otherwise, the market makers wouldn't be able to shake out enough retail to be able to send the market to the moon if they weren't able to test the patience of the people that are holding on, right? That has to be tested. That's why there's shakeouts in the market. That's why before it moons, it always drops a little bit, because people's faith has to be tested, That's why Bitcoin in 2018, if we look at Bitcoin, or not 2018, in 2020, that's why Bitcoin did this in 2020 before it went to 69,000 per coin. That's why the COVID drop happened. And people will say, oh, well, that was because of COVID. All right, cool. If that's your opinion, cool. Yeah, there's always world events happening in the world. But take a look at what happened in the last cycle. Isn't it interesting that Bitcoin in, let's pull up the Bitfinex chart here. Isn't it interesting that Bitcoin in the cycle before the COVID drop also had a massive crash right here where it went for a huge panic and a big capitulation in 2015? It's called a shakeout. It always happens. And it doesn't matter what external event you place on it and say, oh, it was because of this, it was because of that. Every cycle has a shakeout. Every time the market has a shakeout before it goes higher. That's what happened to the NASDAQ in 2008, right? Here's the NASDAQ in 2008. Here's our bull market here on the NASDAQ. Here's the internet bubble pop. And then here's the shakeout in 2008 before it went to the moon. So markets are designed to have shakeouts, designed to test people's patience and people's faith. And I know what you guys are saying. Oh, well, Dallin, if markets are designed to have shakeouts, then aren't we going to have one right now? Aren't we going to have a big shakeout before it moons? Well, not every shakeout is the same size. Sometimes those shakeouts are little ones. You know, that's what happened right here in 2024 when the bull market had a correction right here. It looked like it was starting to break out of a bull flag, and then it had one more correction. That was a shakeout. And this was a shakeout too, when the price of Bitcoin went from 111,000 down to 98,000. And this was a shakeout. So shakeouts can be big, they can be small, but they usually happen before a big increase in value. There's usually some type of a shakeout before an increase in value. So it's no surprise that we're pulling back a little bit right here in the short term. But no, I'm not in the boat of people that think we're starting a bear market. Crypto is not done yet in the big picture. We have a lot of fuel left. This shakeout could be short-lived. It could come back down to this support level. You know, it could come back down to this support level right here, or it could go down to even this one right here. But there's one thing I don't think it's going to do, and that's go for a bear market and start making lower lows and lower highs. It could bottom out right here. In my last live stream, I talked about if Bitcoin does not hold support, then the first area of support I'd be looking at is 117,000 right here. That's what I said in my last live stream. So it could bottom out right now at 117,000. But I definitely wouldn't be calling a bear market. I'd be looking at support levels to be picking up more or to be holding on to the crypto you already have and be preparing for a reversal at some point, whether it's sooner rather than later. It's going to reverse and keep going higher on the upside in the big picture and keep establishing this big uptrend that's been going on that really started in full force in 2017 when the markets really started to go full force here. Chris says, if you were to buy Litecoin and try to call the bottom of this pullback, what price would you have your buy orders at? Thank you, Dallin. So Litecoin is another favorite of mine. Let's pull up Litecoin here. Let's go to the 45-minute. If I was to say where the bottom could be, to be honest with you, it could be right now. To be 100% honest with you, I'd expect it to bottom out sooner rather than later. We have a lot of support in this area right here. There's a big support zone between these two levels right here on the 45-minute. So on the smaller time frame, which I believe you're talking about in your question, because you're asking about the current correction on Litecoin, it could bottom out right now as we're speaking. But if it doesn't, if it goes a little bit lower, then I'd have multiple buy orders. I'd have a buy order down here at $107. I'd have a buy order down here at $100 per Litecoin. And I'd have a buy order on the median line of this range being about $115. All of these areas would be good places to put. Say you have $1,000 to put into Litecoin, you could put 10% in now, 10% right here, 10% right here in a buy order, 10% right there in a buy order. And if not all of your buy orders get hit, let's say only the top 3 get hit. Let's say, Litecoin only goes down right here, and then it starts to double bottom and go higher. Then I'd scale in as it's going up with the rest of the orders that never got hit. I would just make the use out of all that capital, kind of get a good average entry here. But to be frankly honest with you, Litecoin is looking good. Litecoin just broke bullish out of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. That's what I'm telling you guys. If everybody's calling for a bear market right now, if a lot of people think that we're going to start a bear market right now as we speak, but stuff is breaking out bullish out of inverse head and shoulders patterns, and the big picture trends are still perfectly intact, and most coins are undervalued in the big picture, do you guys really think a bear market's going to start, or are we just going to get ready to go to the moon? And I think we're going to go to the moon. High Tech Redneck says, it seems theta is being suppressed on purpose, implicating the bigger players already know something is coming in the bigger picture. Yeah, I agree with you. Altcoins are always heavily suppressed every time. They're always heavily suppressed before they take off. And it always feels like they're going to take a lot longer than it feels like they're going to go down forever because of how long they're going down and how long it takes for them to moon. But once the jack is out of the box, once the dam breaks, once the soda can lid is popped, and all that pressure comes out, there's no stopping it, and it just goes straight up. It just goes vertical. And so I think that's coming soon for theta, my friend. Michael Praisler says, hi, what do you think about XCN Onyx coin? Let's pull up XCN. So I really like this chart. We have a triangle here for Onyx. We broke bullish out of this triangle. Let's adjust our lines a little bit right here. This is kind of the same thing that's happening to XRP right now. This is really common, you guys, to have happen, where you break bullish out of a trading pattern of some kind, and it comes back down and tests it as support, like exactly like this. So I think this will bottom sooner rather than later. If you have a big triangle like this, okay, and price is going up in that triangle like this, and it's inside of that triangle and it breaks bullish out of it, a lot of times it will come back down. Sometimes it even will go a little bit below the triangle and then still go up like that. It's those shakeouts that I was talking about, how the market kind of has to test people, test the faith of people. You will a lot of times get these bullish breakouts and then these big corrections like this where it pulls back a little bit. In this case, it's not a super big correction. It's actually pretty small. But a lot of times you will get a correction after a bullish breakout of a trading range or a trading pattern just to test support. Sometimes it tests exact horizontal support like this, where you have a triangle. You break bullish out of that triangle. You break bullish out of that triangle like this, and then it comes back down and just kind of tests horizontal support and goes like that, right? Other times it looks more like this, where it actually goes down a little bit after that breakout. But I like this overall. I really like this pattern here on Onyx coin, and especially the fact that this is the beginning of a big bull market after a huge correction. So this is the first bullish impulse wave, right? Go study other markets that did the same thing. Go study Bitcoin, for example. If we pull up Bitcoin in 2015, You can see the big bear market on Bitcoin in 2015, right? Let's go to the 5-day candlesticks. Let's go back a little bit here. You can see this big bear market on Bitcoin in 2018. And then you start to bottom out, right? You start to bottom out on Bitcoin. You make your first upward move right here. You see that? First kind of parabolic run right here after a bottom. That's the same thing that Onyx just did. All right. So this is how markets bottom out. They have big corrections. They start their first leg up. They pull back. Then they go for another leg up. Then they usually pull back. Then they go for another leg up. And they kind of have to step their way up until the momentum is so strong that it's just going straight up. I mean, still have corrections, but overall just going straight up, right? So that's what Onyx is doing. It's starting to bottom out down here. It's starting to make this is its first Elliott wave, its first bullish impulse in a new trend, in a new cycle. And that's what markets do. They have to, in order to bottom out, they have to make their first higher high and higher low. And this is actually the best possible time to buy. So a lot of times I don't show this, you guys, but I'm going to show it because it's actually completely free. So let me pull this up because I do actually give this away for free to people. But I have a trading plan that I've been using since, I think I developed this trading plan in 2017. But the setup criteria, the entries, what I look for entries is to buy on wave 2 or wave 4. And I especially like to buy the .786 Fibonacci level. And if you look here on Onyx coin, what happened right here? Onyx did a wave 1 and a wave 2. Wave 1 and wave 2, right? So that's wave 2. So according to my trading plan, I like to enter at wave 2, right? That's one of my favorite places to enter into the market is wave 2. So that's a wave 2 right there. But look what else. I like to buy the 786, the 618, and the 88% retracement. And if we look at Onyx coin here, I bet 99% chance that that's the 786 level right there. Yes, it is. We're right on the 786 Fibonacci retracement. So not only are we in wave 2 of a new cycle, but we're also on the .786 Fibonacci extension. So this is following my trading plan. I like to buy stuff that's the beginning of a new market cycle. I like to buy stuff that's on the 786. I like to buy stuff that's in wave 2. I like to buy stuff that is oversold on the MACD. I guarantee, yes, this is oversold on the MACD right now in relation to when it was overbought over here. It's oversold on the MACD. So this is following the criteria of my trading plan like perfectly, right? AC, I did some analysis on Rapdog in my last live stream. Also, if you haven't had a chance to check my Twitter account, I did make a post about the bullish Elliott wave impulses coming on Rapdog, so go check that out. That's my latest update for Rapdog. Robert Richards says less government is good. I agree with you 100%. The less government, I mean, you have to have some degree of government. I believe in good, strong governments. I believe in, and by strong I don't mean big, I mean true to principles. I believe in good governments. I believe in government. I'm not an anarchist. But I do believe in government within the context of reason. And when a government becomes so big that it's this entity of itself that doesn't even understand all of its moving parts because it's so big and so bloated that it can't even function efficiently, and it doesn't hold true to principles, then there's a problem. And that government needs to be revised, or maybe not revised, but changed, right? The fundamental principles of the United States are good. The U.S. Constitution was inspired by godly men. A good majority of these men were Christian believing men that attended church every Sunday. These were men that were true to principles. They were honest. And a lot of them, by the way, people always bring up slavery. They're like, oh, but they had slaves. You guys, All right. Do you want to know the actual truth? A lot of them didn't want to have slaves. Some of them did, but a lot of them didn't want to. And by the way, these slaves that they had, although it was not right to have men under in slavery, and it's not right for people to have slaves, they had better lives than they had from where they came from. They were treated well. It was the very small majority of people that treated their slaves badly. And no, I don't believe in slavery. It's terrible. It's wrong. But the fact of the matter is that the men that founded the United States and the men that were part of the creation and formation of this country were good, godly men. Take it or leave it, believe it or not. I know the school system tries to tell you otherwise, but that's the truth. And so, yeah, I believe in small government, and I believe in government that holds true to principles. And our government here in the United States it was founded on godly principles by godly men. And so we don't need to take away the Constitution. We don't need to take away the important things of this government that made it what it is. But we do need to downsize. I believe that 100%. It's too big. Let's see here. Justin Landtrip says it's definitely an ugly candle on the major markets. Seems like they are starting a bigger correction there. Well, yeah, so a lot of people are that way, Justin. A lot of people are bearish right now. So consider your position, because if the majority of people are bearish right now, that might be the wrong thing to do. It might feel right. It might look right because the markets are correcting a little bit. It might feel like the right thing to do. But the honest truth is nothing has changed in the bigger picture. These trends are still strong. The markets are still strong. There's no reason to start considering a big correction. And if by big you mean bear market, then I think that's not going to happen. If by big you mean it could go a little bit lower from where it's at, then yeah, it's possible for us to make a lower low here, on the short term, and maybe test 100K per Bitcoin again and come back up. That's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's possible. But will we go for a bear market? Very unlikely. So I'd just be careful, how bearish you get. If you're bearish, a little bit bearish, then yeah, it's possible for us to go lower. But should you sell? No. Because nobody knows if it's going to go lower. It could bottom out today and start going up again. So, we're definitely not starting a bear market. I firmly believe that that's wrong for people that think that we are. I'm not sure lots of people expect to blow off top too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You don't expect a bear market like that. Oh, you mean a lot of people still think we're going to go for another high? There's some people that do, yeah, but I'd say a lot of people are still kind of thinking in terms of a bear market starting. A lot of people think a bear market is starting, or at least a big correction. From my observation of X and from the sentiment, even in today's live stream, a lot of people have been kind of leaning bearish. So, yeah. All right. EA Freemason says, hello, brother. Just stopping through to show my support. It's me, Courtney. Well, thank you, Courtney. I appreciate you tuning in. And, yeah, thank you for supporting my channel. Definitely seems most likely this is a large shakeout. Everything lines up for the real blow-off top to come still. Yeah, I agree. And we'll see how big the shakeout is. It could be kind of small. We could bottom out right now, like I said. Nobody knows for sure. It could be a little bit bigger. Maybe the markets come down like this to 99,000. Maybe Bitcoin starts to show weakness as Bitcoin dominance goes down, and altcoins continue to go higher and bottom out. Litecoin looks really bullish right now, even in the short term. I'm leaning more towards this correction being short-lived, and definitely not starting a bear market. But yeah, that's my personal view on the market. I don't try to the thing with the short term, sometimes there's really clear opportunities where I will predict the short term, but there's a reason I mainly talk about the bigger picture. It's because the bigger picture is very obvious, very clear, very predictable, very you can trust your analysis of the bigger picture, where the shorter time frame, the opportunities only present themselves sometimes where they're clear, and a lot of times it's more unclear what's going to happen in the short term. And that's because in the big picture, markets follow fractals of other markets. So in the big picture, you can actually study what's happened in the big picture on other markets and get a very clear understanding of what's going to happen in the bigger picture. But in the short term, even if you're studying Apple versus Bitcoin, or you're studying the NASDAQ during the internet bubble versus Bitcoin, or whatever you're looking at, the short-term swings are always different. There's always differences in the short-term swings. So you can't use the big picture analysis to know what's going to happen in the short term. With the short term, you have to rely more on things like the MACD, how overbought or oversold we are, how are we doing? Are we rejecting at resistance? Are we finding support? You have to stick more towards those classic technical indicators that people use, where the big picture you can rely on the cycles and what's happening in terms of the psychology of the market a little bit more. Theta bottom. Yeah, John, I do think theta is in its bottom right now as we speak. And that's, again, why I'm not bearish on the rest of the markets. A lot of people are bearish. Even in the short term, they're pretty bearish. You guys, how low is this thing going to go, right? How low is theta going to go? We're at our all-time low right now. Like, we're right on our old all-time low that we formed in 2023. We're at that level right now as we speak with theta. So how low is it going to go? We're extremely undervalued. This thing is going to bottom out. It's going to bottom out, and it's going to bottom out soon. It could bottom out today. It could bottom out tomorrow. But it's going to bottom out soon. It can't go very much lower here, if any. So yeah, I'm definitely bullish on theta. And I think the bottom is in. And why? There's a reason. In my last live stream, somebody was telling me, hey, Dallin, there's so much FUD on theta right now. And I was like, well, yeah, there's a lot of FUD. It's not at the peak of its cycle. It's at the bottom of its market cycle. Of course there's a lot of FUD. The chart is a visual representation of the majority's emotion. The only people that are bullish on theta right now are smart people. People that have studied this technology, they've studied the cycles, they know about theta, they've done their research, and they're bullish on the markets right now. But the chart is a visual representation of the majority's emotion. So the majority up here were bullish, and the majority down here are going to be bearish. Of course, all over X, there's FUD right now on theta. The same thing is true for a lot of coins. It's like Ethereum. When Ethereum bottomed out this year in 2025, and I made a video telling people Ethereum was going to have a huge recovery soon, right here, I made a video when it was worth $1,500 per coin. The FUD at that point in time was astronomically high on Ethereum. The chart is a visual representation of the majority's emotion. And the emotion of most people right here was bearish. They were expecting more downside on Ethereum right here at this price, at $1,300 per coin. And I had a full recovery. And by the way, you guys, this is a breakout retest on Ethereum. Here's our resistance level right here. We broke above that level and we're testing it as support. That's why I'm saying don't get so quick to be bearish on the markets. We broke out of resistance. We're testing it as support right now on Ethereum. That's a classic breakout retest. This is where the market turns around and goes higher. And with theta right now, we're extremely undervalued. We're on major support. We're touching our all-time support level. Major support for theta. So, according to the rules of technical analysis, what do? You buy support. You don't sell support, you buy support. That's why it's such a good opportunity right now to buy theta. It's such a good opportunity. And Ethereum too. Ethereum is a wonderful opportunity right now in the short term to buy. I'm definitely leaning bullish in the markets. A lot of people think it's going to go down. And to each their own, they can believe what they want to believe. But I firmly believe the market's going to turn around here. Not based on just because I want to, but based on the charts, based on actual analysis, you know. All right, we're an hour and 20 minutes in. I better call it a day. I know I didn't get to all of the requests that you guys made in today's live chat. So I apologize for that, but thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, thank you for all the people that requested coins. Again, I know I didn't get to all of them, but thank you for requesting them. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos and in future live streams. Don't be afraid of the correction. If anything, buy more. And be ready for big things. There's big stuff coming for the crypto markets. Tune out from the noise. Tune into the truth. And I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos and future live streams. And as always, stay profitable out there.